Okay, hello, and welcome to this webinar, Remote Possibilities, How Online Tutoring Creates Pathways for School Success. My name is Kevin Hogan. I'm the e-content director for eSchool News, and I'm happy that you're here with us today. Very pleased to be talking with both Rosalind and Miranda about their latest episodes in working with online tutoring. Just a few housekeeping items to get through with before we get started. The first is, obviously, Zoom platform, everyone very comfortable with that idea. If you have any questions for our panelists, I'd like to ask if you use the chat function, which is at the bottom of your screen. And I would encourage any questions or thoughts that you have when it comes to this conversation that you want to ask both of our panelists. They're very knowledgeable about the subject, and I know that it would help them in terms of the conversation to know which ideas, which insights you are looking for if you want to go ahead and implement these sort of strategies in your schools and in your districts. And with that, I would like to move over to talking with our two panelists, Rosalind Petrie. She is the middle school principal for TVAH, and Miranda Frink. She is a high school principal as well as a 10th and 11th grade teacher at TVAH. Their model is a little different, something that maybe our audience hasn't experienced before. So maybe we'll just get started, Rosalind and Miranda, and you can talk a little bit about your model of online tutoring. I think everyone had experienced the forced experiment with remote learning during the pandemic, right? And there are a lot of different flavors that kind of came out of that. But I know that both of you have been working in this space long before then and have had experiences using these different techniques. Maybe, Rosalind, I'll put you on the hot seat first. Can you talk a little bit about your model and maybe the distinctions that a lot of our audience might think of when it comes to online learning?
Sure. Yeah, I'm happy to. Thanks for having us today, Kevin. We are an entirely online program, and so our school offers fully certified teachers to teach through all the curriculum and the TEKS that every other public school in Texas has to adhere to. But we do it all online. So we have all of our classes offered online through just a synchronous schedule where our teachers are logging in the same time as our students to a virtual platform, much like Zoom. And then outside of that, we have an asynchronous curriculum that our students all work through. So in general, that's how our school functions. A couple of things that we have to do in person, like STAR testing that we all just wrapped up. And of course, exams for high school. But in general, that's how our school works. And we've been able to utilize Stride Tutoring for tutoring services online within our platform as well, which has been an amazing addition to our school, just education in the way that we're approaching small group tutoring and extra support for our students who need it.
And when did the school begin offering services like this?
Ooh, that's a great question. I've been with Stride K-12 for 10 years, and it's been open for probably an additional 10 to 13 years before that. So we've been open quite a long time. And so going into COVID, we were well prepared for helping support our students. We, of course, at that time had a great influx of students coming online, and we were able to support them with some very good experience in virtual education to be able to get the kiddos to learn what they needed to learn still in spite of being home and not being able to go be in person around other people. Yeah.
Yeah. And Miranda, maybe you could talk a little bit about your history with the school and your working with this sort of model.
So I've also been here for 10 years. Rosalind and I came on either the same year or 1 year apart from each other, and taught on the same campus for quite some time. So I have also been here for as long as I can remember, most of my professional career. And so when COVID did happen, like Rosalind said, we were very well prepared. We were very well set up And we did take a large influx of students who wanted a platform and a model that was already set up, and it didn't feel as much like crisis learning, quote unquote.
Right, right. And are there any particulars? I mean, I'm assuming with the state of Texas, maybe just a lot of students maybe that are kind of far flung, maybe that
Yes.
would take a long time to get to school. I mean, are there particular ingredients that you see the type of student who's attending your school?
You know, I don't know that there's a particular formula or commonality between our students. I do think the one commonality is that they are all looking for something different than traditional brick and mortar education provides. We at TVA specifically are 89% at risk. And so we have students who come to us, especially at the high school level, who are really just trying to graduate. We have a very large credit recovery program that we run in order to get them caught up and allow them to walk that stage in May. But we also run the gamut. We have a couple of athletes that compete and have a very sort of odd schedule day to day. And so they come to us for that flexibility. But I would say predominantly the student at TVA is a student that needs an alternative model for very personal reasons to that student.
Does that resonate with you, Rosalind?
Yes, 100%. We have a few athletes. We have students who are in, acting classes or doing other things that just require an alternate schedule. We have a lot of students who come to us because they were bullied or just in an environment that they weren't comfortable with in their previous brick and mortar school. We also have quite a few students who are sick and they can't be around a lot of other kids because of being immunocompromised or on a schedule, seeing a lot of doctors all the time. And so the flexibility that we're able to provide students to where they can still attend classes online, still do their learning, but not have to be sitting in a chair from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. every day, Monday through Friday, just makes for a really good option for a lot of students. And with the advancements that we have in technology and what we're able to offer our students as far as being able to learn virtually with the platform that we come together in and also the asynchronous course we provide, it's a great option for those students. So we're excited to be able to provide it for them for sure.
Is it fair to call this a virtual academy model? I mean, I know there was a lot of description over the past few years of districts trying to figure out how, when things went back to whatever normal is how that they might be able to keep some of these techniques and technologies. And I would hear that the virtual academy is that a fair assessment?
Oh, we are.
I would think so.
Yeah, I think so too. We're a public school option for the district of Hallsville. So we're fully public school, just like a brick and mortar school would be. But yeah, definitely with all the virtual stuff that we do, I think that's a fair assessment of what we offer.
I guess just to kind of get our audience in a frame of mind to kind of understand this, can you walk us through a little bit of a day-to-day in terms of, what is a first bell? I mean, when is breakfast break? I mean, talk a little bit about some of the distinctions of how you're managing your students and faculty in classes on a day-to-day basis.
Yep. It does look different. So we, depending on the grade level and subject, for middle school, our classes start around 8:30 in the morning. So students, depending on if they're an early riser or if they're rolling out of bed at 8:29, we ask them to be in their live sessions at 8:30, and they run depending on the grade level and subject. And then they have subjects with live synchronous sessions that are about 45 minutes long, scheduled throughout the day between 8:30 and around 3 o'clock. Those sessions don't take up that entire time slot. They have a break for lunch, which I think is around 12 or 12:30. They've got a bunch of asynchronous lessons that they work through as well. So outside of the classroom, they log into their account and they have some things they need to work through, kind of like homework, where they're going through and just supplementing their learning from what they're doing in the live lessons. online in their account. Is there anything you'd add to that, Miranda?
No, we're structured almost exactly the same way at high school as far as students go. They do most of their live sessions in the morning. They have a couple that will trickle in the afternoon, but then they have the rest of the day to work on their asynchronous coursework. And then as far as staff management, we have teams. We are a Microsoft school, and so we have teams where we consider it sort of our hallway. That's what it would be akin to at a brick and mortar campus, where we can stop and chat. And then we have meetings within teams as well, and we house all of our notes and everything in OneNote. So it's surprisingly similar. It just looks a little bit different.
And with let's go a little deeper when you talk about the synchronous versus asynchronous. And again, I mean, the past 3 years has been pretty much a laboratory of schools experimenting with hybrid learning and what works and what doesn't. I had 3 beta testers in my own home here where the synchronous did not work. There were a lot of hoodies up. There's a lot of screen fades and that sort of thing. While at the same time, they were all very adept in terms of asynchronous and having their content delivered to them and doing research. And some of that actually seemed to be more productive than maybe during a normal school day in an in-person setup. Can you talk a little bit about the pros and cons of asynchronous or synchronous, and like, what is there a formula for success there? Does it depend on the student? Does it depend on the class? Maybe Miranda, I'll put you on the hot seat first.
So we kind of, the motto that we use and how we explain it to new staff and new students that are coming in is our asynchronous classroom is our tier 1 instruction. That is where you're going to get the bulk of your information. That's where you're going to do the bulk of your activities and the bulk of your learning. And then the synchronous live classes are either to supplement that or to extend that. So they are really sort of the cherry on top, or the chocolate sauce on top of your sundae, where that's where you're going to get just a little bit extra. And then of course we have, support office hour sessions where if you need extra on top of that, you can come and get that as well. But that asynchronous time, like you sort of explained with the kiddos in your household, is really where you're going to find the most success and the most amount of information.
Rosalind, that resonates with you?
Yes. Yeah, definitely. We have the same approach for middle school. We do rely on the adult at home. We call them a learning coach. And that learning coach at home with the student is supposed to be there alongside them to help guide them, keep them on task, because you sit a 12-year-old in front of a screen for 8 hours and expect them to only do schoolwork. Without an adult there, you're dreaming. So we ask for our learning coaches to be very involved in their students' education. And beyond that, we do have a program for students who really find a lot of success in only completing the asynchronous component and not feeling like they need that additional synchronous live class time. So that we call it our flex program. And in that flex program, we allow students to be excused from the live sessions as long as their grades stay up and they stay on top of their coursework and they're very involved and responsive. But along with that comes and with all of our students, a very big focus from our teachers and our staff on making strong student connections. So that connection and relationship that our staff have with the students inside the classroom or outside the classroom is truly the backbone of our school. And the only way to make it work is just having that relationship strong and in place.
Yeah. Well, so this is great. I mean, considering your careers and the work that you've been doing, I know we have audience members here who are not kind of embracing a full virtual academy model, but are looking to kind of find out the impact of this sort of method, in whatever their setups are. Can you, and with that, maybe we could talk about what are some of the pros that you can identify when you're implementing an online, virtual sort of setup. maybe not necessarily a full virtual academy, but you're looking at online tutoring sessions. Talk a little bit about some of the pros.
I mean, just being able to access the instruction from anywhere is a huge benefit. Like we talked earlier about our students and their reasons for coming to our school. I think that, leaning into that, just being able to offer instruction from their computer screen, if they've got a laptop and they can take it with them wherever they need to be, that is a huge pro, the big benefit of virtual education. Definitely, we are able to search through, for us in Texas, search through the whole state of Texas and find the very best educators. So we have a wide pool of candidates who come to work for us. And so getting really strong, qualified teachers, which I know is definitely at the top of Stride Tutoring's list as far as getting excellent staff in place to support the kiddos that do virtual tutoring. There's usually a lot more flexibility as far as like schedule goes and stuff like that as well. So just being able to schedule things because staff is more available when they're at home on their computers doing their instruction. So that's another pro. What else, Miranda?
So I think that to extend on Roz's mention of flexibility is that at the high school level, we know that we have a lot of students that come to us that have a job or other day-to-day responsibilities, whether that be parenting or helping care for their household as a whole. So we also offer a secondary schedule that happens from 3 p.m. to 8 p.m. so that those students still have an opportunity to hold on to those responsibilities, but get their schooling done on time and graduate on time. We also allow for any students that come to us that are special populations, their parents sometimes feel when they come to us that they have more of a say. They have a little more, I hesitate to use the word control, but control is really what they feel they have. And in hands-on and being involved with their student and any services that they're receiving, making sure that they receive those services on time and in the way that they're supposed to. I think those are two really large benefits and one of the major reasons that people come to us.
Yes, and we really because I taught in brick and mortar. I was a fourth grade teacher for 7 years before I came to K-12. And I thought that I had a pretty good relationship with my students' parents, but coming to work for K-12, I found that the relationships that you build with the parents specifically is so much stronger. And so, there has to be more intentional outreach because you are virtual, you don't see each other ever face to face. And so you have to be very intentional about making the phone calls and sending those individualized emails, back and forth conversations through text with the parents of the students. And so I think that's another benefit, is just that increased connection relationship between the teacher and the parent. So the parents get to be, like Miranda said, a lot more involved in their students' education that way.
Yeah, that definitely seems to be another kind of post-pandemic realization from the parent side, and appreciation for the work that you do, as well as the ability that the technology makes it easier to have communications with teachers, right? I mean, I spoke to my kids' teachers more in those first 18 months than I had in 18 years, really. And I guess as on the parent side as well, I mean, just in terms of building community, the understanding that you call them, what you call them, coaches or
learning coaches
at home, which I was that was the tech assistants, right? I mean, they're the tech during the remote learning experimental phases. You mentioned both elementary and high school. I'm going to assume that there are different techniques in terms of managing students of different grades and different ages. Can you guys dive into that a little bit?
Sure. I was actually elementary principal before I became middle school principal. So I've got a little elementary experience virtually as well. And what, yes, 100%. It is a different ball game teaching 10-year-olds as opposed to 17-year-olds. We have a lot of elementary students who have very involved parents, and the more involved they are, that definitely leads to a different approach to the way that you're connecting with them outside the classroom. Inside the classroom, when you got those 20 babies in front of you in the virtual classroom, there's definitely a different cadence to the lesson. The teachers build in more frequent breaks. There's a lot of very interactive, like, hey, go get that Lego set in your room and show us what you built and tell us how that, relates to volume that we're talking about in class. So the teachers bring in a lot of kind of hands-on thinking about the student's environment, where they're at in their house and what they can bring to show on the camera. And just to kind of keep them engaged and keep them excited about interacting in class. So you mentioned earlier, Kevin, about the students who are in the classroom when they're doing that synchronous instruction being like, hoodie up, or I'm going to turn my camera off. And, I'd be lying if I didn't say we've seen kiddos falling asleep on camera, or we've seen them be like, oh, there's the TV, and then camera's off and we know what they're doing. But yeah, like being able to, have the noises, have the little games that we play with the kids in the lower grades to keep them engaged really helps keep them at least with us for the 45 minutes that they need to stay in class. And teachers have a lot of good tricks up their sleeve for that. And then it kind of transitions up as you get into the middle school kiddos, and then I'll let Miranda talk about high school.
And the high school, as you might expect, we lean much more on the student. We expect much more from the student themselves. In fact, a lot of the times we have a little box that they check in their little student portal that we are free to text directly with the student, so that we can hold them a little bit more accountable as they move into those later grades. We do still, I will say, it is still really vital that the parents stay involved. You find a much greater level of success, as you would expect when it's everybody's in support of the learning that's taking place. So it's not to say that we leave the parents out, but as you get older, you want to give them a little more responsibility and a little more buy-in to their own education.
Yeah, and I guess with your students, they're already kind of self-selected, as they've chosen this as a solution for them, as opposed to a lot of folks that this was thrust upon them, right? And maybe it's not like their favorite way of learning. But in general, do you find that the students have any sort of resistance to the remote, or are they just kind of used to it because it's not a novelty for them? It's just something that's always been part of their life.
Some of them do. Even at high school, sometimes we get students whose parents feel this is the best choice for them, and it's not necessarily of their choosing. But just like in brick and mortar, with education as a whole, you're always going to find a resistant student. You're always going to find a student that struggles to engage. And like Roz mentioned earlier, those connections are vital. And we find that if students don't have an authentic connection, meaning they talk to somebody on the phone, they've exchanged several text messages at least every 30 days, we sort of lose them. So we really, really have a major priority set on connecting with those students. But we do still get, the disengaged learner because of our at-risk population. We do still struggle sometimes to get students in the work and successful.
So we talked about some of the pros. Let's dive into some of the cons. I mean, are there still things that you find that make this dynamic restrictive? And what are the things that you do to overcome those restrictions?
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely not a solution for everybody. I think that there are some students who come to us and try it and then end up saying, I miss my friends. And so that's one of the biggest things that we hear from families that decide that they don't want to stick it out through 12th grade is that the social aspect of it is just a lot. They are missing a lot. They really want to be able to be around their friends every day and stuff like that. So we're always expanding and growing and trying to find new ways to let the students connect socially. We've got a platform that's new this year called the Zone, where students basically like a virtual playground where students can go in, they can connect with each other and just talk. They literally like have a little avatar person that walks around and they walk up next to each other and they can speak to each other. They can like adopt a pet and take care of the pet and watch the pet grow. So just kind of some fun things that we're trying to experiment with, expanding ways for students to be able to interact together socially, so that that's not so much of a con. But I think that that's one of the biggest things. We have clubs too that the students can, select if they're really into cooking or they're really into reading books, so they can get together and talk about those things with the teacher. So we offer some of that as well. But the other big con that I think we have virtually is just that we can't go walk by them and like tap them on the back when they fall asleep. We can't turn the TV off and say, pay attention to your lesson, because we're not there with them. So, we do have, like Miranda said, we've got a pretty high at-risk population at our school. And so that includes sometimes some homeless students who are in situations to where life's just really rough. And so we're a good option for them. But it also means, on the flip side, that sometimes even attending our school is difficult for them because of the situations that they're in. And so that's kind of a downside as well, just as far as like us not being able to be there and be present and help physically as much as we want to.
Sure.
I think there's a physical proximity. It can definitely be a challenge when you have a student who's resistant or disengaged. And then there's the misconception sometimes that from parents and students alike, that they can kind of enroll with us and hide out a little bit. So we have gotten really good at chasing kiddos down and saying, hey, we see you. This is still real school. You still, you have to be here. You have to show up. We are required to administer state testing. All of those things still apply. So I think that's something that we encounter probably more so at the high school, where they're just kind of trying to fly under the radar. So we've had to implement several different policies and processes in order to make sure that every student is seen.
Right. How about let's get into the weeds a little bit about the actual technology. Any challenges there in terms of, are you issuing Chromebooks? Are you issuing laptops? Do the students need, what sort of bandwidth do they need? Talk a little bit about the tech setup.
We do have quite a lot of laptops that we issue out to families. They have to qualify for it. So if they qualify for a free and reduced lunch, then that qualifies them to receive a computer and a headset and a mouse from us. So we send those out when they qualify. And then we have a very limited number of hotspots that we also will send out to families who qualify for that. So if they get our computer, then of course they get access to our tech support as well, so that if there's ever any issue, which sometimes there are, with them getting online, or they spill water on their laptop, is one I heard today from one of our students, or their house is in a fire and then the laptop burns. Like, things happen, we have to support. So our tech team stays very busy helping support our families because a lot of our families do have our K-12 computers.
Same with you, Miranda?
Yes, yeah, we send out computers, like Ross said, to those who qualify. And tech support will, I believe, still help, even if it's not a Stride K-12 device. But We also find too that we have a lot of learning coaches who are grandparents who are parenting, and they are just not as adept at the technology. And so you do find that even, like during COVID times, our teachers sometimes are IT support and have to help them learn the platform, learn the technology. How do you check the email? Where did that document go? Those sorts of things.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit more specifically about Stride and your work with Stride. I mean, when they came in as a solution, what are some of the distinctions that you find with them versus maybe other online tutoring programs that you've used in the past?
Stride has been wonderful to work with. They've been very flexible. We have very large schools. And so with our high volume of students, we have asked for some extra things for Stride, like bulk upload of schedules and stuff like that, that they have been able to make happen for us. So as far as working with them and them working with us in our specific needs, they have been amazing. And then I know that Stride Tutoring also has all their tutors are fully certified teachers. We have even like some of our own staff who are teaching full-time virtually, who outside of our work hours, like in the evenings or on the weekends, they are working as Stride tutors themselves. So we can 100% vouch for them. They're amazing. But yes, the tutoring that our students have received through Stride Tutoring has been excellent quality. They've, asked us about what's our scope and sequence so they can align there with supporting the students in their learning at the same time as they're learning it live in class. And yeah, we've had a really great experience with Stride Tutoring being a good support for our kiddos with tutoring and we've used their tutoring services as kind of a supplement to what we have in place for HB 1416 tutoring requirements for Texas.
Okay, well, and give me a little bit more detail on what that means. Is that in terms of
So House Bill 1416 is something that was passed a couple of years ago. The number changed last year in the state of Texas. And so if a student doesn't pass their standardized assessment for that year, they are then allotted a certain number of tutoring hours, and that can range from 15 to 30 hours of tutoring. So it's basically very highly targeted tutoring in order to get them to pass the standardized assessment the following school year. And so, our teachers are pretty maxed out, as you might imagine. And so we have brought on Stride Tutoring as a supplement to that to help us manage some of those tutoring hours and help us manage some of the student numbers that we're dealing with.
Okay. And when we talk about that dynamic, are those still large groups or a small group, or is it one-to-one? Talk a little bit about how that works.
For middle school, we are at, I believe it's a 1-to-4 ratio is what we said for the majority of our students. We do have a few special cases who we have allowed to do the 1-to-1 just because of their individual needs. But for the majority of the students who are from middle school who are working with our Stride tutoring tutors, it is a 1-to-4 small group ratio, which is still amazing.
And so that is again another kind of post-pandemic sort of thing where the one-to-many model didn't seem to be that effective, but the smaller the groups come, and even then you get down to 1-to-1, it becomes that much more powerful, right, Marina?
It does. And I think that you find, especially in virtual, again, I talked about the students who kind of want to fly under the radar, and it's, the more you pare down those groups, the less that they can do that. And one thing that Stride Tutoring has been really great about is sending us the attendance reporting in a format that not only do we have to report to the state, but that we can make actionable and follow up with students that are not attending and why are they not attending. And it sort of helps us determine what are their barriers to engagement. But like Ross said, one of the main benefits that I have seen with Stride Tutoring is that their tutors are certified teachers. And so they can take that scope and sequence they can take those state standards and they know how to implement them. They know how to teach them. And if the student is not necessarily catching on, then they have the skill set to alter however they're presenting it so that the student can grasp the concept and move forward.
Okay. And how are these engagements put together? Is it on a semester basis over the course of a school year? Talk a little bit about the relationships. And let me ask you, I mean, and I'm assuming that it's important for the tutors to form a relationship as much as a teacher having that relationship, right?
100%. Yep. We do it by semester. But if we have students, and high school probably does even more by semester because you have an end of course exam that happens in December. So ours is for the whole year, but we still will take students in for the fall who we think will be successful with the Stride Tutoring program and place them with tutors in the fall. And then if they continue to attend and they're very engaged with those sessions, then we will continue them in the spring, and then also bring in some new students who sign up with us in the spring to get them tutoring as well. And it is definitely every semester we've had parents who say, wait, I really want to have Miss Susie again. Can you please hook me up with that tutor, because we really connected and I love the way she explains things. And so yes, those connections and relationships are definitely important. And the smaller the group size, the more that happens. And so we have definitely found that to be true.
How about in terms of subject matter? Are there things to consider when you're looking for online tutoring solutions when it comes to math versus social studies? Are there different dynamics there that you found in your experiences?
I don't know that on our end or on my end, because Stride Tutoring is very full service, they choose the tutors for the different subject areas that we tell them that they need. And so they go out and handpick. I would say with math, you need somebody who's going to be interactive, who's going to be really patient, because when you have a student who's behind in math, that visual piece is really, really important. But Stride has done a beautiful job of matching up tutors with the subject areas that we ask them to support.
Yes. And we have had specific conversations because we meet with them every week, especially as we're launching, with, okay, students who are really struggling in this concept, we're going to put with this tutor who we know has a lot of experience teaching that. So they've been very thoughtful about the way that they're matching up their tutors with our students, which has definitely helped as well. And one other piece about just the tutors and the importance of that connection that I wanted to make sure to mention, we've had a couple of tutors who have then reached out to their supervisor, who gets in touch with us when they felt like there's a concern with a student, or there's something happening in the tutoring session that they feel like they really need to follow up with, and they wanted us to be aware, which has been an additional just, kind of cherry on top, as far as like feeling like they really care about our students and they want what's best for them, and want to make sure that everybody's okay and safe. And so that has been wonderful to see as well, that connection kind of goes both ways, as far as the students wanting the tutors and the tutors also really caring for the students and wanting to make sure that they're social emotionally, where they need to be, and then also academically where they need to be.
Yeah. And well, I'll assume here that as we're talking about the needs of the students, that this stretches into some strategies that involve special education as well. Do you have any insights into how that applies to your particular group of students?
Yes. And it kind of goes back to the whole Stride Tutoring uses fully certified teachers, because we have been able to even send them some IEPs and 504 plans that have very specific accommodations that students need based on just their special education needs. And they've been able to take those and implement them in their tutoring sessions, which is a huge benefit. We've worked with other tutoring companies that did not have fully certified teachers, and the documentation side of it and the implementing accommodations piece feels very overwhelming for them, and they were not able to make that happen for us. So we've actually even had to pull some of our special education kiddos out of other tutoring companies, put them with Stride because of this. So that's been like a game changer for us as far as just which tutoring companies are the best options for our students. We also have a high special education population at our school, and so a lot of the students who are needing this extra tutoring are they do have IEPs, and they have just extra things that they need in their learning to help them be successful. So Stride's been great about making sure that they're implementing those things.
I had one particular student who was more the parent was a challenge, but it was a special education student, and the parent was very diligent and very specific about what they wanted and what they needed. And so we purposely placed them with Stride because we knew that Stride would be able to, even if the first tutor wasn't a match, we knew that they would continue to work with us to find someone that could support this student and ultimately this parent and get the student to where they needed to be. So it really has been a lovely relationship that we've developed, and feeling comfortable in asking them, hey, I have this student, this is the situation, who on your staff roster do you think would be a good match? And it's been really nice to be able to go to them with that.
Yeah. I guess to go back into a little bit of the nitty gritty of the day to day, and when you're looking and you're interacting with the students day in special education, what are some of the other kind of features of the platform? Are you tying into other learning management systems? Are there, you guys were talking about giving out assessments. I mean, are they creating assessments through this? Talk a little bit about how the tutors themselves are, what sort of technologies they're working with.
So our learning management system allows us, and there is actually an extension when you're talking about serving special education students and their additional needs. Our LMS allows us to modify those assessments, and we can create specific groups of students within it. So if I have a group of 10 special education students that I know need a reduced answer choice, I can go create an assessment for them and release it only to that group of students. And so it does allow for a very detailed, granular ability to give students precisely what they need. The other thing that it's done is there's a Chrome extension, and then there's an ability within most of our assessment platforms. We don't really branch out into any other LMS that allows that text to speech so that those assessments can be read to them if that's an accommodation that they have. So we do have a really nice ability to provide those things and ensure that they are getting the accommodations that they need. It's not left up to the student and the parent to ensure, but it can be built into their day-to-day schooling.
Okay. Oh, how about on your side, Rosalind?
Exactly the same. We use the same LMS, and so all of the same features that we have to be able to build into our system they work the same way for middle school as they do for high school.
And your regular faculty, are they having a relationship at all with the Stride tutors as well? Talk a little bit about, I mean, I'm assuming, again, going back to special education, there might be meetings where you have folks coming together to look at that IEP and talk about putting together a curriculum and that sort of stuff. Any particular dynamics there that our audience might want to know about in terms of bringing in other staff, I guess?
Yeah. We actually have not done a whole lot of cross-talk between the tutors and the teachers. Just as far as outside of, us kind of being the intermediate between them. The tutors do take notes from the teachers. So there is that aspect where they can say, okay, yeah, these kiddos really need this special or this extra, support and scaffolding on this standard or this concept. So there is that the tutors have taken and implemented from the teachers. And then we do have a few kiddos who have very specific ways that they learn. And so when we have situations like that, we definitely will, take all that feedback from the teacher and make sure that it gets to the tutor so that they know. And then any kind of data that we take from assessments from the teachers, all of that we can give to our tutors as well, for the tutors to then take and process, updates on how the students are doing in their learning. Are they improving from the previous test score we got to this one? Just to kind of like track that. And I think that about covers that relationship between the tutors and the teachers. If there was ever a very like any kind of specific notes, either way from the tutor or the teacher, though, definitely make sure to get them in touch with each other or pass along that communication so that they can collaborate to support students.
Right. And how about with you, Miranda?
It's the same. There's not as much crossover as probably would be ideal, but in the way that they support in a supplemental role, there's not a lot of crosstalk or planning together. But like Rosalind said, if there's a pertinent note or a pertinent piece of information that one or the other needs, I do feel like we have a very open line of communication between Stride Tutoring that we can pass along, and vice versa with our teachers.
Now, you were talking about the day-to-day of regular school. Maybe talk a little bit about the day-to-day in terms of scheduling tutoring sessions after school. What does that look like?
Yes, we have kind of built into our school day some tutoring times for students to be able to attend their Stride tutoring during the school day. Some students, and we've talked kind of a little bit about just student individual schedules and the need for some of them to have a little more flexibility in their day. And so for the students who, for whatever reason, cannot make the live session time that we have allotted during the school day, we have allowed them to schedule outside of the school day, just to be able to still get that tutoring time in, but at a time that's most convenient for them. I know Stride Tutoring offers that on an individual basis to students if that's the way that you are set up as far as your contract with them. We do a lot of groups, which you can't really do the outside of school hours with a group of students unless all 4 kids all agree that they're all going to come at 6 o'clock at night. So as far as the group sessions go, we try to leave those, during the school day. But our school day also technically goes until 5 o'clock. And so we do have a little bit of a wider time range, where it's still kind of within that range. And we have some staff called engagement specialists as well. We've talked a lot about engagement, how important engagement is for our students. And so those engagement specialists do a lot of just reaching out to the students, making sure that they know when their tutoring time is and that they need to come, and help make sure that they have the link to get into the session and know how to do that, especially at the beginning. And so our engagement specialists do work with the families and with the tutors to make sure that they get the students into the sessions during the school day, if at all possible.
Interesting. Other communication tools. So when you talk about there's the scheduling of the sessions themselves, if a parent or has a follow-up question or wants to text, I mean, are those dynamics available there as well?
With the tutor specifically, or?
Yeah.
So not usually. They don't usually communicate outside of the platform, but I feel as though we have a really good relationship with our student population. And so if any issues ever arise, we get those messages pretty quickly, and we're able to work with the Stride Tutoring staff to resolve those. And honestly, I will say, given the large number of students that we have referred to them and that they support for us, I have only had a handful that I've needed to request a different tutor, and or, hey, something happened. They asked them to do this assignment. We can't figure out what it is. And it's been very quickly resolved. They're very, very responsive.
And Rosalind, you're nodding, so I'm assuming the
Yeah, same for middle school.
The same case. Well, now, as again, you both mentioned, I mean, just long careers with not only just the online dynamic, but also through the use of Stride and Stride Tutoring. And I know that the online tutoring obviously accelerated during the pandemic, and people have found lots of great benefits of that. When you see the state of play of where you are now, kind of take a look into the future and see, I mean, does it continue to accelerate? Do you see more students taking advantage of these sort of technologies? Talk a little bit about where you kind of, you know what the past is, you know where you're working right now. Talk a little bit about where you see your work going in the future.
Yeah, I think that, COVID kind of opened everyone's mind up to virtual education in general, and just, the need for school choice and for there to be alternate options for students. And so I think that our future as far as virtual education goes is only going to increase. And I think we're already seeing a lot more of, blended schools and schools that are, half at home doing virtual, half online, or half homeschool, half in a brick and mortar. And so I think as far as the future goes and where we're headed, and especially with some of the technology that's coming out that's allowing us to have a lot more of even the social aspect that students were missing, and the ability to keep them engaged that way, I think that we're just going to see an increase in virtual education in general, and a lot more just different options as far as how you can learn. And so yeah, I think it's just going to get better.
How about your crystal ball, Miranda?
I think so too. Roz and I have both been here for about 10 years, and every year that I've been here, those student numbers have never decreased. So I do think that is the direction that we're heading. I think at a minimum, you're going to see a lot more traditional school districts at a minimum, at least offered a hybrid method. I do think just with the prevalence of technology and all of the tools that it offers to provide education for students, there's no reason not to use it. I'm partial because I work in virtual education, but and students are so much more adept at it now. When I was in school, it was Oregon Trail on an old school little PC, but now it's readily available, and if it's there, we may as well leverage it.
Yeah. Well, I knew the toughest part of my job today would be to end the conversation. There's so many different aspects of this that we can explore, and lots of different rabbit holes. But maybe I'll wrap it up by asking you each to kind of give our audience some advice that are sitting here. They're thinking about this. Maybe they went back to normal after pandemic. They remember some of the advantages of online learning, and specifically probably through the use of tutors. Maybe they're just kind of looking at it as a possible solution, no matter what their setup is. What would be the first steps for them when it comes to exploring this as a solution?
Oh, look up Stride Tutoring and see what they have to offer and how you might be able to incorporate it into your school day, and as an option for kids to be able to get some after hours tutoring as well, because they offer the after hours tutoring that is a fabulous support, and it is such a wonderful way to be able to get students some extra live tutoring that they really need, when especially our teachers work till 5 o'clock and then they are off, and so sometimes students sit down to do their work at 6 or 7 or 10 at night, however late, and for them to be able to plan and have sessions with tutors during an after hours time where they can get some support from a certified teacher that can really help engage them in learning that is specific to what those kids need. I think it's way worth it. The flexibility you get with it is wonderful. So definitely think it's a good addition to the way that we're educating our students.
I was going to say something similar, leverage the experts in the field. It's been around for a lot longer than people realize, and Stride has been doing it for probably 2 decades now. And so they're very up to date with new technology and new changes and ways of getting that scheduled and supporting students. So use the experts, use the ones that have already done the trial and error and have kind of figured out the kinks.
And it's not like it's an all or nothing sort of
No.
solution, right? You can
Mm-mm.
just kind
It's
of,
an addition. Yeah, it's definitely an added support. It's not in place of, you're not replacing your teachers, but it's to support not only students, but teachers and parents as well.
yeah, yeah. Well, thanks again, Rosalind. Thanks again, Miranda, for a great conversation. A lot of insights. I know I gleaned a lot, and I assume our audience has as well. I'd like to thank the audience as well for participating and asking questions. As a reminder, you'll receive the recording of this in your inbox in the next couple of days. So keep an eye out for that. Any more information, you can see the website there that you can go to get more information. But with that, I'll leave you all. Thanks very much and have a great day.